electric, and Brentwood bark pigment. As this day shares the most light with us, so too will this day serve as a reminder, always, of the light, the love that brings these two together.
And everybody helped us so much with putting all of this together. And thank you.
Now, basically, we're not going to use any motorized transport.
Yeah, that's our only really strict rule. We have a sort of less formal rule that we don't resupply on food except where there are people with food anyway.
So we're basically going to be amphibious. We're going to walk, but we have these tiny boats that are just 5 pounds that we carry in our backpacks. So many people seem to assume that, I guess because I'm the woman along on this trip, that I must just be along for the ride. I mean, people ask Hig while I'm standing 2 feet away how he got me to come along with him, which is even backwards. I mean, actually this whole trip was my idea. I'd been the one pushing that we should, do something really big, that we should take a whole year and, try walking to Alaska all the way to the Aleutians, and I had to convince him that it was a good idea. It didn't take much, but he isn't dragging me along. And of course, actually, while we're out here, it's very much a partnership. I mean, you couldn't do this dragging somebody along. It just wouldn't work.
One of the odd things about a trip like this is that you want to plan an adventure. It's kind of almost an oxymoron. Adventure sort of is what you failed to plan. It's kind of a trick of how do you put together something that's going to be full of unexpected surprises, challenges that push your limits, but it's not something that's going to kill you.
Just before they were married, they were spending the summer in Caldova, and I went up for a visit, and I was like, fine, we're going to go hiking. That sounds great. And, I'd been hiking, pretty much since my college days. And they're going, there's only a trail for about a mile, and then we'll bushwhack. And I'm like, okay, fine, no problem. I'm not worried. And then when I got back to the cabin, I had bruises all over my legs. And I remember asking Erin, I said, what made you think this was a good idea? And she's like, well, but you've always gone hiking and you've always done these things. And I told her, I said, you have an overinflated impression of me, I think, maybe, because when you were little, I could do all these things.
Hig's name is Brentwood Higman, Brentwood Mark Hickman, actually. And I've always called him Brett. Somewhere along the line, he picked up Hig as his name. Alaska has been a great place for all of us, and especially has fostered Brett's real love of just being out in the woods. Hig has a remarkable ability to tolerate discomfort, and I'm his mother. I wanted him to be warm and have dry feet and to dress appropriately, and he, as a small child, was always in over the tops of his rubber boots. I bought him hip waders at one point. He went over the tops of the hip waders. So then we said, okay, so your feet are wet.
We didn't care if he's wet. I mean, when he was a kid, I could hear him walking with water in his boots, and when he dumped the water out, oh, it's not too bad. There's gravel in my boot too, and it kind of, I don't know, because I was trying to keep my feet dry all the time,
The main purpose of this video is to test putting them on the website, so don't watch if you don't want to. This is our house, where the expedition will begin. And inside we find my whiteboard. Still got too many things to do, despite the fact that there's only 16 days left. Neighbor's cat is visiting. Piles of junk, raft, hiking gear everywhere. And in about 2 weeks' time, this place will be empty and we'll be walking to Alaska.
Well, Erin actually is spending all her time planning the trip, which involves a lot of route mapping, printing out of maps, gear lists, purchasing of gear, contacting companies for funds, She's doing all these things, and Hig is still working on his thesis, hoping to get it done at the very last minute. It's a rainy Seattle day, but we're all going to gather at Aaron and Hig's apartment to send them off. My sister made a banner that we could carry. We're going to walk through the university, up the Gilman Trail.
This camera actually was just released a few weeks ago. It's like really compact, it's shock resistant and water resistant. So the big limitation for this one will be batteries. Our plan was to buy a new battery, but they're not selling them yet.
And we stopped at a convenience store near 405 for matching gray and white tundra camo sun hats, which they said on the tag. You know, I mean, I feel like a nomad now. We're on this big trip, but it's strange being on this expedition in a place where no one would expect that you're on an expedition. It just kind of looks strange. So, make our gear as light as possible. We've tried to take advantage of the fact we're traveling as a twosome. So we've got one sleeping bag that we can both fit in that Hig made, one little titanium cook pot, one fork, we've got one spoon, and we've got one toothbrush for the two of us.
So we're walking in Bellingham here, going to the Starbucks probably, because they have internet access there. We're going to upload some pictures and stuff to the web. An important part of our trip here. We're actually crossing I-5 on an overpass. It's our third encounter with I-5. We started right next to it. Eventually we'll outdistance this sucker. We're looking forward to being beyond Interstate 5.
My feet were pounded sore on the road today.
Look at that blister. This one actually popped.
So they warned us, the folks we ran into, about the Class 4 rapids on the Sauk River. Paved highway is so dull. You just got the painted yellow lines and the buttercups on the edge of the road, and that's all there is to look at. So, you know, Hig obviously wanted to go into the river because he hates the road even more than I do, and I hesitated because I'm a little bit more cautious or cowardly, whatever you want to call it. And so I you know, said it was okay, we can go down, give it a try, and let Hig go first, and then I hopped in and was following him a little too closely, and I knew it wasn't going to work. I was like, oh man, I'm hitting this big hole wrong, and I just knew I was going to flip, and so I braced for it, and boom, there we go, flipped over, but it wasn't a big deal. Popped up, grabbed the edge of the raft, and started swimming for shore, and it wasn't hard to make it to the sandbar at all. I just worried that this camera was in my coat, and, you know, it's supposed to be water resistant, but wasn't sure.
A few little dots on the lens, but I think it's still working all right.
And I guess we've tested it now, although we'll try not to test it that way again. Kind of felt stupid to have screwed up so badly. It's not that hard of a river. I could have done it right. I feel embarrassed writing it in the journal, but... Sitting on the beach here between Bellingham and Blaine. And it's pouring rain this morning, which makes me a little bit less inclined to get out from under our nice pyramid shelter here, but I'll do it in a minute and paddle up to the Canadian border.
Yeah, it's never that appealing to get out, but it sounds worse than it is when you're inside.
True.
The tent is like a big amplifier for rain, I think.
We're going to be crossing into Canada today. That is, as soon as we can get ourselves out of this tent and into the rain. Hig wanted to stop to take this picture of one massive cedar giant, and so he told me to go stand on one side of the tree, and he backed up a little bit and had the camera and was messing with the settings, and all of a sudden he just says there was a bear on the other side of the tree for me. And what am I supposed to do? I don't have any bear spray. I couldn't even see the bear. It was that big of a tree.
So this black bear followed from behind us, but he's acting very curious. He just ran about 20 steps down the slope here. Aaron has a capsaicin dose for his nose should he get really close.
Go away, bear. Go away.
And he's unfortunately right next to our packs.
Get out of here.
He's in a very bad position to charge us right now since he's downhill. However, I would rather have an ice axe in my hand.
Grab a stick, Hig. Do that right now. It was so weird because it was a black bear and it was coming towards us, and black bears don't usually do that, and the few times they do, sometimes they're being predatory.
Not much to see, but off there in the bushes, there is some mother with 3 fairly large cubs. So we retreated. Actually, we have a little castle here. It's an old cedar snag. She didn't actually attack us. She just approached us, and she did make one movement to try to frighten us.
Okay, we're not in the city, but we're not in the wilderness either here. It's kind of the industrial wilderness. There's all those clear cuts in the mountains and all along the forest, and now here in Salmon Inlet, there's salmon farms and power lines, but there's not even any salmon anymore. It's such an ironic name because we ran into the folks at the lodge, and the guy who runs it there was telling us all about how the old caretaker used to be able to watch these big schools of salmon, you know, coming up the inlet every spring, but the only river that flows into here is dammed. I mean, we paddled down that lake and the salmon can't get up it anymore, and so the only salmon in the Salmon Inlet are these stinky pens full of Atlantic salmon that are part of the salmon farms, and they're not helping either. It's just kind of depressing.
It's really different to be out there than to read about a place, but that ground truth, what's actually going on out there, is really revealing. The coastal line of BC and southeastern Alaska have a lot in common. There are these big forested islands, narrow channels, all the inside passage. But one thing that really changes across the border is there are a few rules that are different. One thing is that salmon farms are actually completely illegal in Alaska, and they're quite common through much of BC, especially southern coastal BC, and it destroys the local habitat. I'm hot on my own trail now, and I think just up here, I remember there's a log that I walked along, and there was one spot where I leaned back. See, there's a footprint there. Yesterday we walked through this bit of thick brush and such here, and we figured out last night, camp a mile and a half or so from here out on an island, that we didn't have the bear spray. So now I'm here by myself trying to figure out where it was we walked. I remember seeing a banana slug kind of like this yesterday, but really banana slugs make lousy landmarks. Well, I just found the pepper spray. I was so excited I didn't actually get footage of picking it up, but fortunately I found it, and now I'm ready to paddle back. Hello!
What happened?
What do you think?
Well, I don't know. You sound fairly happy.
Yeah, I found it. I actually had to go all the way the road and then come back, and I found it like 100 yards from the water. So I got the full tour, and it was like extremely obvious. I just had trouble following our tracks when I first started.
With all the wet bushes, we are totally soaked. We keep calling ourselves the soggiest people in the world, and
Aaron is soggiest.
Chilly.
I'm second because Aaron's leading today, and so. But yeah, feeling a little chilly. Looking forward to walking again to warm ourselves up.
And hoping this ridge doesn't have any cliffs we can't get past in it.
When we stopped for water earlier today, I took my kit off in order to take a pee, but I didn't pick it up again. And so once again, I'm backtracking. I'm not exactly what I was hoping would happen. So I've got this log strapped to the front of my boat as a counterweight, since I'm carrying hardly anything in my pack. It's on my back, and I'm headed out towards that little channel. It's very hard to see. So it's not like it wasn't, you know, pretty damn obvious. You'd think I could have noticed it where I left. But now I'm, looks like an hour and 7 minutes paddle to here. So hopefully a little faster. I won't be fighting the wind as much the other way. And then I'll be back where I should have been, you know, an hour ago. So what are you doing there?
I am cutting off the hair that's getting in my eyes. And since we don't have scissors, I am doing it with a pocket knife.
I mean, isn't that going to look kind of funny, though? You just kind of hack it off there?
Yes.
All right. I suppose that's all right.
I don't think the seals and bears will mind very much.
Probably not. I don't know.
And so I said, yes, it was last night. Remember, I told you, a mouse is going to eat our cookies as you were putting up the air sacs. The top of the cookie bag was pointing out.
Well, it seemed unlikely. I mean, it was.
And then you just said, did you? I must have been thinking about something else. So I told you something, and you acknowledged it, but you weren't actually listening?
Well, you know, sometimes that happens, I'll admit.
I've been living in the backcountry of Southeast Alaska for 13 years. I've been working in the field for 20 years. Walking in the woods with heavy packs is a normal part of my summer routine. I've done, 100-day expeditions, solo kayaking, all over the coast of Alaska and British Columbia. After reviewing the data myself in the GIS format, I saw that one of their legs took them from Ketchikan to Wrangell through some territory I'd explored in the past. Always wanted to go back to that place, and I thought, hey, maybe I can be more a part of this trip. So it seemed like a great idea at the time. They definitely were very cautious in their enthusiasm for my joining them, and that duly noted, I still moved forward and bought the pack raft, and I bought all of what I think is the best gear you can buy. We were in Ketchikan, we had to purchase food, and the recipe is basically find the highest calorie, lowest volume objects in the store you possibly can find. Believe me, that was fun. But they were obviously not very enthusiastic about my pack. I mean, I looked at their packs, and they're not packs. They're just tubes of fabric with straps on them. They're bags that they wear on their backs. There's no internal frame or anything that provides any kind of support. Their system was, this minimalist system. Their tent weighed, I don't know, less than a pound or whatever. I bought a tent that weighed 2 pounds, which is still really light, but for everything that I bought in a store that was the lightest thing you could buy, it was at least twice as heavy as what they had, sometimes 3 times as heavy. So even though the forecast wasn't that good, we took off. On the second day, we paddled probably, I don't even know, probably 10, 12 miles or so, which is a fair stretch to paddle in those little boats. I've done, again, a lot of sea kayaking, expedition type stuff, and you feel pretty good about a 20-mile day in a sea kayak, and you go probably twice as fast as you do in these little pack rafts. And then we put everything in the backpacks and we started hiking up through the forest. And I'm no stranger to bushwhacking. I've done bushwhacking for 20 years in Southeast Alaska, and I actually pride myself on how much I love to bushwhack, and indeed I do. But with 60-some pounds on my back, actually I think my pack was more like 75 pounds. I didn't love it as much as I normally do. Plus I had already paddled the 12 miles. Plus I didn't know where we were going to stop, except for it was going to probably be dark. They were in far better shape than my post-work 2-hour slog through the muskeg had gotten me. And honestly, I was so tired, I was shaking. My body was shaking. And started hearing this voice inside myself that was saying, you can't do this. You can't keep up with them. You're gonna die. They knew they would be completely away from any sources of food, and so if you get behind on a 14-day leg and you've got 14 days of food on your back, you're rationing right away. And every day that I slowed them down would mean further rationing. I just could not get out of the frame of mind that I was going to slow them down and cause this rationing, and I didn't want to harm this amazing expedition in any way. The big difference wasn't necessarily the physical fitness. I think the big difference was just the mental toughness, and that they had this level of commitment that generated this mental toughness that they were unstoppable, basically.
So originally our friend Bob was going to join us all the way from Ketchikan to Wrangell. We had a great time. We learned actually quite a bit from him in the time that he was able to join us. He knows the plants and everything here in Southeast Alaska really well, and so he headed back yesterday, and I hope everything went well for him.
They do not strike me as particularly spectacular physical forms. I think that's a really important opportunity to show people that they are you in physical form, and that what got them to be able to do this is something you are also capable of, but it takes something different than jogging every day or learning woodcraft skills. It's about, your attitudes.
Pig trying to fill our water bottles at the edge of this waterfall and a granite cliff, misty fjords. Always looks so tempting to fill water bottles from a place where you can get to right by the pack raft, but it's always a little bit more difficult than it looks. Seems like you've figured out a decent spot now, though. Enough really tall cliff.
Iskut River here. Our hope had been to float down through, but there seems to be a bit of a rapid here, like about 6-8 feet of drop. However, there is actually a portage. We've got a nice takeout over here. It looks like we can portage through a dry channel, and we can end up down there below the rapid. The only concern is that there may be another rapid just downstream of here. Closer examination of the map, it does a pretty sharp bend, which could be a real difficult because the river's in this deep gorge. So we've just decided we're going to portage around this hidden possible rapid, and so we are working on climbing out of this gorge. Right above me right now is a basalt cliff, so I'm not sure we'll be able to find a way over that. We'll see. So we're still trying to get around this big rapid. We're once again hitting quite vertical, tall cliffs. It's all this columnar basalt. Very pretty, but rather sketchy, and it tends to form these very vertical cliffs. We've been scouting up and down this cliff for a while here, and Aaron found this route. So we went back, got our packs, and we're now attempting it with the pack. This is the final ascent here that Aaron's on. It's looking pretty promising. So much of this is really difficult, just really steep with very little in the way of handholds. So you can kind of run them without a pack on, but you know, you look at it with the pack on and it's just crazy. So I went and scouted another spot that I determined was terrifying, and was happy to hear that Aaron had this route when I came back.
Oh, I just said that I was being really careful on that last spot, which was the sketchiest spot, and this is obviously no problem up here.
It was fairly freaky, actually, the climb there. But you know, you get up to the forest floor and you're like, wow, it could not be more benign on the top of this lava flow. So we just climbed up out of this gorge because we were looking at this blind corner up here, and we thought it might be a huge heinous rapid beyond these gentle looking eddy swirls.
Got up around our blind corner in the gorge, finally found a way down this morning, and we are standing on the banks of the Iskut. Hopefully there'll be relatively smooth sailing out to the ocean from here.
Walking the highway into Petersburg today, and state trooper stopped to talk to us, and we explained what we were doing. He sounded pretty skeptical. He said, oh, you know, I'm the one that has to go out there and find folks who screw up. But we gave him our card, so maybe he could go online and maybe we'll seem a little more real.
Pig is thinking we might be able to use this pole here to attach the 2 alpacas into a longer boat and make them a little faster. We'll see how that works out. Ice axe isn't the most efficient chopping tool, but seems to be making some progress.
We're actually set up with a tandem boat here, so we have the 2 pack rests strapped together. Paddling across Glacier Bay here. It's a beautiful moon tonight and just dead flat calm. Aaron, don't go away. No, keep going straight, like, go straight down the coast. The melting ice can actually be a help in our travels here. We've got this band of bare rock along the edge of Brady Glacier here that we're planning to walk along, but to get there, we decided we'd paddle up this little channel here in the ice. You can see Aaron down there fighting the current. So our plan today is to go up over that pass. We just floated down the Dixon River and came out this valley here. We're gonna pack up our boats here. We are now at the open Pacific, just starting our big open coast leg. So we're following a rather gigantic bear trail here, up over from Dixon Harbor to Strallaby. It's just a beautiful example of a bear trail. They provide better walking. I'll also tell you a little bit about how many bears and what kind of bears there are around. In this case, lots and big. One more headland to do tomorrow morning, then the open outer coast. south of La Perouse Glacier here, walking along the outer coast. And there's Finger Glaciers inland of us here, and it's letting out all these little glacial streams. And they have, this is the first one we're crossing, and so on one side obviously there's the breaking surf, and we have to go through this, and the boulders are so big it can be waist deep between these boulders. So trying to figure out a way across that's not too wet and cold. And the boulders are completely slimy too, so a little bit challenging. Erin's about 2/3 of the way across, same as me. I'm a little upstream. My way was a little on the deep side, and so she's now going to have to cross this little channel. And she's a little closer to the waves, so she's got problems with the waves coming in, but she also has a little bit shallower water usually where she is. This one looks pretty deep. About 2 days out of Yakutat. The sand is blowing in the rain. Fortunately, it's all behind us. Kind of ugly weather today. We've kind of holed up here, got our rafts lashed over us, big wall of driftwood, and we're looking out on the storm. It's going to be a
sand.
Yep. Blowing sand.
Very high velocities.
Yeah, it just sandblasts you if you walk around out there. So
and we're out on a spit between the ocean and a large bay, so we can't really cross anywhere until it dives down.
It'll be an interesting night. So this is where we ended up spending last night. You know, we've been sleeping in soggy sand all night. This morning we were definitely chilled, so one of the things we do to warm up is we find a slope and we go up and down, and all we had was this tiny little dunes. So we ran up and down that tiny little dune many times. We've been watching the calving events. There was a quite large one a little while ago. I mean, we could tell it was larger than usual because it washed up into the snow. And so we're hoping things are good. We need to get through the narrowest part just up ahead, sort of near where this calving event is, without trouble. So we'll see what happens. So looking from within the gap in front of the Hubbard Glacier. Ooh, that was a big one. Yeah, I see it there. See that swell of water. Alright, I'm going to put the camera away so I can paddle as this wave comes towards us. The narrow spot is now behind us. Went no problem, we just went with the ice. It was a pretty incredible place. Ice everywhere. So we walk with these really light shoes, and they do pretty well in a lot of ways. They're usually warm enough. They don't do a very good job of keeping the silt and sand out of our shoes, so we have to occasionally wash off. And today is a rather chilly morning to be doing this. So Erin's going to wash the sand out of her shoe. It builds up in a little pile under the toes, so some washing has to happen.
So we're on the edge of the Malaspina Glacier. Hey, don't blind me, please. It's all covered in forest, which is pretty neat. And it's also, all of the bluffs that are along here must have shrunk a lot since they mapped it. Everything here has changed since they mapped it. I don't know why we even carry the maps in areas of dramatic glacial retreat like this. The rivers have all changed, the beaches have all changed, the glaciers have all changed. It's a pretty amazing landscape.
Remember the wiggly trees?
Oh yeah, that was pretty cool because the ice shifted and then the trees kept trying to go upwards, but upwards changed. They were on ice, not ground.
Yeah, and they were all, the lower half of the trees went around all these different bends, but then the upper half was straight because the ice had melted out. So what you're looking at here is a small glacial lake. It's about a half mile across. It's at the very toe, I guess, of Malaspina Glacier. Malaspina Glacier is about 60 miles across. Now the thing that's really interesting here is that this little glacial lake is actually becoming a lagoon, and we're seeing this process in action right now as this big storm is blowing in and breaking over the barrier, the old moraine that separates this little lake from the ocean. Now once the ocean is in here, once these big waves are crashing in on the glacier, you can imagine it probably doesn't have that long to live. So we may be looking at this little teeny lagoon, this little lake, becoming a giant bay, 50 miles across it. So it's a pretty incredible thing to see as the waves break through here. And I think I better get off this rock. The waves are breaking awful close here.
Walking along the beach, we just came across this group of sea lions hauled out on shore and snuck up here to get a little video of them, trying to figure out how we can actually get around without bugging them too much.
Really kind of in the middle of nowhere here. Icy Bay is someplace that I think of as one of the more remote places on the planet, and a few days ago we were walking around the point and saw fresh four-wheeler tracks on the beach, and we did find there was a lodge and quite active and people there. Well, it turns out it was the lodge owner dropping off the film crew for a reality TV show that's being filmed in Icy Bay this winter. Kind of bizarre. Yesterday we got to hang out with some of the participants in their little their wall tent. They're roughing it out here, a nice couple from New York, and learning a little bit about the Alaska wilderness. So we'll have to check out the show, I guess, when we get back to civilization, you know, see if they survived. And they formed the entire show around that concept that, like, if you don't have enough protein in your diet, it's just, you're gonna die, which is totally not true, first of all. And second of all, they gave them like a bunch of pasta, for example, which actually has quite a bit of protein. So if it wasn't for the delusion that everyone involved, the participants and the creators of the show, were under, then the participants could have just sat on their duffs the whole time and eaten pasta and they would have been fine. But we don't really worry about protein. What we really worry about is the fat to starch balance. That's absolutely crucial. You want as much fat as you can because it's lightest. It's, you know, if we didn't carry a lot of fat, I mean, our load would just kill us. But if you go too low on starch, you may have heard of the Atkins diet and ketosis. But you basically, your body does not function properly, and you lose all of your energy. And we've had this happen on a trip before. It really, really sucks. So we had to make sure we had somewhere around half of our calories from starch. But we're always trying to balance that line, and then we're just throw a little protein in there for good luck. Yeah, and so we carry a lot of pasta, for instance, a great one. It was spaghetti particularly. It packs really well, really durable, easy to cook.
One of the ways we managed to eat about twice as much food as a normal person is by going for lots of cheese and butter in our diet. Cheese.
Yesterday we made an attempt at crossing Icy Bay. We launched in the Tsunami River.
A couple hours before dark. We thought we had just about enough time to cross it.
Yeah, we figured we'd hit the far shore right about dark.
4 miles. I don't know, I was kind of nervous the whole time. I had some feeling that it wasn't a good idea.
But then we ran into this just packed tight wall of just shattered ice. Everything from refrigerator size to baseball size chunks of ice all smashing together and grinding in the chop and the swells. It was raining.
Wet, cold.
Right about freezing.
We've been places with icebergs before.
Right.
You know, it's just not to that level.
I mean, it was fairly continuous there. We're just paddling like crazy. You couldn't stop because we would get swept into the ice. There were waves washing across the boats, raining, dark. I mean, it was getting
we couldn't
totally
even stop
dark
to
now.
pee. We had to pee in our boat.
Yeah, we just wet our pants and just trying to find anything we could do to keep ourselves going.
Well, I started off just talking to you partly because I wanted you not to have to turn around and look for me, and I wanted to make sure you knew I was still behind you. So I just started talking about whatever, but then there weren't many normal topics of conversation. I didn't really want to talk about how we were kind of screwed or getting cold or in the ice. So
like to die.
We started speculating in a little bit more positive fashion.
Off and on, they've been kind of touching on this discussion about, whether we want to have a kid. I guess, I don't know, at least last night we thought we made a decision.
Yeah, well, we were, you just asked me that question out of the blue, if that you thought we should have a kid, and well, I thought that was a pretty cool idea, and then of course there was a whole lot we could say about that, so we ended up just trading these random speculations about what it might be like to have a kid as we're paddling in the dark and the rain, trying to get back to, the same side of Icy Bay we started on.
Eventually, we got to the point where we were getting into somewhat more protected water, so we were able to push out away from the ice. In a way, the ice had been kind of nice. It provided us this guide, and we're just off in just total blackness, just navigating based on the slight smudge of different gray in the sky.
Yeah, and I I'd totally run out of things to say, even, you know, about kids or about ice or whatever. And I still wanted to, you know, keep myself going by saying something. I wanted Hig to know where I was, so I just sung the alphabet song over and over like 50 times.
And it actually worked out okay. We were able to drive into the shore and went up with the waves, and so here we are.
Yeah, but we're just still camped out on the east side of Icy Bay, and we still need to get to the other side one way or another.
Yeah, well, we'll keep trying.
We ventured across this morning because the ice looked pretty far away, and you know, but the wind started coming up and the ice still looked like a pretty solid line, and the last thing we wanted to do was get blown into the packed ice on the far shore. So here we are retreating, and to try again another day.
So I'm standing up at the head of Icy Bay. We're kind of scouting around because we need to cross this bay somehow, but the whole bay seems to be packed with ice.
Eating our Thanksgiving dinner here, a gift of moose meat from George and Jill at the Icy Bay Lodge. We're roasting it on a fire and then retreated here into the shelter to eat when it started raining. Still on the east side of Icy Bay, poked out a little bit paddling today, and fighting the wind was kind of hard, and so we're back at the head of the bay. Paddling across Icy Bay here, 4th attempt. It's really calm today, but there's still quite a bit of ice out here, so we'll see if we can find an opening to the far shore. Finally on the west side of Icy Bay. After being hauled up here for a week and trying 3 times, our 4th attempt, we actually finally got across. Looking forward to continuing on now. One of the things we've been talking about is whether to have a kid. Did we really mean what we decided in Icy Bay? And if so, you know, is this really the right time? And have to find ourselves a place to live. I've got this book to write. In a way, it's kind of scary. We just don't know what to expect, don't know what it'll do to our lives. But if we made choices based on being afraid of the unknown, well, we wouldn't be here, would we? So I think we're gonna go for it. We tried to cut our weight as much as possible, and it's been this long, hard leg, and we don't even have much food left. Trying to get to Cordova, and I probably have about 6 glass balls. I'm not sure how many you have, Hig, and we have, you know, picking up glass fishing floats for Christmas presents, but they're just so pretty. I mean, you can't hardly leave them there. Birthday started out pretty good. Hig got up, made me coffee. It was a beautiful, starry morning, and sitting by the fire, and then the blizzard came in, which was kind of neat, and we were walking, and that was the first real snow we've had this year, so we don't really have our system figured out for, you know, how to keep track of all our gear. We were hurriedly packing up in the snow, and I'm pretty sure I don't have a pocket knife anymore, and we'll see when we try to unpack all this stuff if we lost anything else, but we're gonna have to be more careful, and we're gonna keep getting this snow. Hig carried my food bag as a birthday present, so I had plenty of energy, but then it all turned south and we decided to go around Controller Bay. Well, that proved to be not the best choice. There's so much thin ice. I didn't realize how hard freeze-up would be. We were scooching in the pack rafts over thin ice for miles in the dark last night, just trying to get to dry land, and food bag bounced out of the raft with all the scoochings. And then there weren't even enough wood to start a fire here last night, so I didn't get a birthday dinner, and now we just have to go all the way back because there's no way we're going to keep going this way with all that thin ice and try our luck on the outer coast. So we're short on food 2 ways, partly because we have to go backtrack and lose all that time we spent yesterday, and partly because last night one of the bags of food fell out of my raft and there's no way to find it again. So couldn't have the birthday dinner or campfire, so Hig just told me a bedtime story instead here in our kind of cold, wet tent, but it was a good present. Most of the time over the years I've gotten pretty used to putting on wet shoes and socks in the morning, and it's a little cold, but no big deal. But it's a whole different ball game when the shoes are frozen. You know, the other day I was let my shoes freeze overnight, didn't know it was gonna freeze overnight, and man, I must have spent half an hour jumping around on my tiptoes trying to shove my feet into those frozen shoes. So we're gonna try sleeping with them to make sure that doesn't happen. There's nothing worse than trying to put on a frozen shoe.
Well, we were pinned down yesterday. We got up in the morning out on what we've now dubbed Desolate Bar after a night of getting buffeted by strong winds. We got up in the morning, and it's kind of impossible to tell where there's land and where there's water and whether the land connects. So we set out thinking maybe we could walk. It was way too windy to be pack rafting at all. But we got out, there's layer of ice out across the sand flat, and we hit the first patch of ice and didn't fall down, but we started blowing downwind. So we couldn't stop until we hit a little rough patch of sand in order to prevent ourselves from just continuing downwind until we hit open water. We just dug in for the day. We dug a big pit and put the tent in the pit and buried the edge of the tent from the inside and filled it with grass, so we kind of burrowed in like mice in there. We really wanted to sleep as much of the day as we could because we don't really have any food left. We have some peanuts, and so we're really hungry. We're getting pretty worried about how we're going to get out of here.
I and the rest of the family are starting to get a little worried because we really have been relying on their timetables. Now, we do understand that these are, you know, somewhat iffy, but given the circumstances and the weather and the way it's getting into winter, we're a little concerned. So I emailed Hig's mom, and she's going to check around with some folks she knows, and maybe they can ask someone who's going up in a plane to take a look.
But we woke up this morning and it was calm. It was like totally calm. A little breeze ruffling the water now and then, and paddled off this little island that we were on. One of the things really challenging here is that all of the landscape is totally flat. There are mountains 10, 20 miles away, but where we are, it's just completely flat. So you can't see any of the obstacles coming up, but the obstacles are there. The obstacles are deep water and currents and ice. And eventually we got close enough to Story Island, where we're camped now, that we were able to walk on the ice out through shallow water on top of the ice. We're just wearing tennis shoes, so that sort of thing is rather uncomfortable, but I'm sure we can get to the road tomorrow. I don't know, must be still another 16, 17 miles to Cordova.
Know. We've been looking at the lights of the airport for what seems like hours. I know the airport's still a ways out of town, but at this point, you know, we're wet and we've got no food. We're gonna make it to Cordova.
Yeah, maybe there's a vending machine at the airport. We can stop for some supplemental food.
But, you know, we can walk the road all night if we have to.
One thing that's been awesome here in Prince William Sound is the fires. They're gravel beaches. We dig a little pit in the gravel and we build a big hot fire there and let it run for quite a while. And then we stir the gravel with cold gravel, and it all equilibrates pretty quickly. We like it to be painfully hot if you touch it. We take a big bag of it and put it at our feet, and it just acts as a heater all night long. So it's awesome.
So we're fighting a north wind today. Erin actually can almost hold us still paddling by herself. That allows me to take this little video. Actually, you might want to go a little more to the right, Erin, because I think we're drifting left here. Actually, yeah, I'm gonna help out here. So we're going back towards that rock. So we're paddling into Valdez Harbor here. You can hear the hum of the Alyeska pipeline terminal over this direction. Hoping to find a place where we can make a phone call, call our contact here in Valdez, Kathy. Maybe have a nice roof to sleep under tonight. That sounds really nice.
So we were just going to show you a little bit of the gear we've worn out, like these gloves. We use our gear until it's pretty well done. These are some of Erin's mitts, which she also got a little bit too close to the fire, but it's not just fire that wore through those. A little bag, which we refer to as useful things, has eventually developed enough holes that it's really not very useful for holding these useful things. You can also see we have these insoles, which you can kind of see Erin's foot here. You can also see where it got burned a bit when we were trying to warm the shoe up one very, very cold morning. Ice axe, used for some things it wasn't originally designed for, mostly involving cutting and splitting wood. So all of these things will go in the trash. They've been used and loved, and they're done.
I shipped a box of skis as well as a big box full of winter gear, so I just shipped all that stuff off. Hopefully it will get there safely. I'd never shipped skis before, so I was a little concerned, but they seem to think it'd be okay.
We're traveling through Copper Basin right now, and it's been very difficult going. We had hoped for quite a bit of open country, good skiing, but actually it's largely forested with spruce, where there's a lot of spruce bark beetle kill, and so a lot of deadfall and brush as well, and it's been difficult going. We're going probably half the speed that we'd estimate. We thought was a fairly conservative estimate of 15 miles a day, and we've been doing maybe 8. Erin has never been a fan of bushwhacking, so it's particularly tough for her, but bad conditions, definitely. The only way out is through, I guess. So what happened?
I just fell in through the ice into the, I suppose, Tonsina Lake, but actually where Hurdle Creek comes out is why there was a bit of open water there, and I was coming up to the edge and trying to test it carefully, you know, looking for a spot to fill water, and I stomped my foot, and then the ice that my other foot was on failed, and I just fell right in, and minus 15-ish temperatures, so it's kind of nice that we have this stove here.
The wind from Copper Basin, the cold air pools there and it pours out. It runs out just like the water down the Matanuska River. It goes out the low point, the big rapids when it goes through the narrow spots, and you get big eddies and gusts. The wind has scoured the ice and sand is blowing around, and it spreads out in the wide spots, and there's snowdrift. It's just intense. Like, we've had it take off with our pack rafts when we were pulling them as sleds, and so far I haven't had anything go into an open water hole or anything, but it's pretty nasty when it's nasty down here.
The wind just wears on you. I mean, it's been so windy for so long, and the wind just funnels out of those mountains, so this time it was even in our face and stinging my eyeballs and just howling. It's like the whole world is just yelling at you.
So Erin is writing in her journal, which is something she does every night. We are sitting next to Manker Creek. Actually, Erin's just next to it. The fire here is built out on Manker Creek on the ice.
Last little bit into Anchorage here. This is a bike trail supposedly covered with snow plowed off the highway.
Where are you planning to make landfall? Around the corner?
Does anyone have a throw rope?
Just look out at the big open spot out towards that other point.
I'm almost thinking like straight out. Like,
Oh, you guys
we're out here looking at Knik Arm, and we've got a bunch of people to go try to paddle it with us, but it really is not looking good today.
Yeah,
looking
I don't think,
very
I don't
icy.
know. It could change fast, but it's not looking promising at all.
But if we
Fairly stable openings that are spread out over a large area.
Nice day to be out.
yeah.
Kind of got slammed, but
Yeah, you know, I know we're not responsible for Knik Arm, but we are responsible for dragging everybody out here, so, you know,
I'm
sorry,
glad.
we couldn't know what would happen.
That's the best way to do it.
maybe it'll be a night to relax a bit. We got all our stuff done.
Yeah, great fun.
So here we are standing at Knik Arm for the last time here from the Anchorage side.
Yeah, time to start skiing. It's just not happening as far
It
as.
looks really solid. We were hoping that when it got a little bit warmer it would get better, but you know, it wasn't worth the third attempt. It's really temp here, so we're gonna suck it up and bike trails now.
Yep, so we got 5 days or so to get to what you can see right on the other side, a couple miles from here. But yeah, you know, what's 5 days anyway?
Not much compared to a year.
Yeah. In Anchorage, the moose are pretty casual about people just going down the trail here. There's a moose hanging out on the edge of the trail, eating alder, it looks like. Moose butt. Potato chip can be -20. It's pretty much the same as it was engineered to be eaten. So we eat a lot of potato chips actually in cold weather. Potato chips are sort of an ideal in that they're something we don't have to take advantage of our marsupial pouch to keep them warm enough to eat, because you can eat them anytime. Those food engineers managed to make something that just, it really doesn't seem to get old at any point in time. My repair did not work. So we're exploring the area of a big proposed coal mine, the Chewitna coal mine. It's just this vast area that's all beautiful rolling hills. If they build it, they'd be mining right through big salmon rivers.
Hig thought he could get water at this great open hole in the creek.
Another one fell in. It fell in.
I see it. It's in a little eddy. It'll stay there for a moment. Let me just check and see.
Nah, it's hopeless, Hig.
They had these really steep, icy banks. He didn't think it was a problem, so he jumped down on a little rock, started up filling water bottles.
This was a bad place to try to get water.
And then, you know, put them on the edge to wait there while he filled the other one. And
couldn't you have just left it attached to your wrist?
Put something on an icy edge and it slides down into the creek.
I'm gonna fall in.
Now, wouldn't that make a good video?
And his ski pole slid down into the creek, and it's all under the snow. He's gonna have to ski with one pole, and I wish we had a little bit more water capacity, but we'll be fine. I bet that was the first ever pizza delivery to Lake Clark Pass.
The pizza didn't last long.
It was good. I guess
that was awesome.
I guess it makes up for the fact that the first time that plane buzzed, I totally fell on the ice, and they came and brought us a pizza.
Yeah.
You know, I don't even know what was on that pizza. I ate it so fast. It was good when we were in Anchorage eating it, but it was better here. Of course, you know, it was gonna freeze if we didn't eat it all right away.
Says 5.5 instantaneous velocity. That's great.
I mean, it's kind of opposite of everything we've done on this trip. We're actually getting somewhere faster than we expect.
Yeah, I think we averaged 4 today. We're going to do a longer day than we usually do in the afternoon. How do they feel?
Kind of frozen. A little bit permanently bent there.
Oh, up at the toe?
Yeah.
Day before yesterday, we left Kamishek Bay and we were skiing up into the pass. And it was difficult navigating. It was total whiteout conditions. It was blowing incredibly hard right in our face. And all that snow that had been falling all day was in motion. There was just, you could not see your feet. It was just this river of snow. What we ended up doing is we built this big snow wall to protect us from the wind, because the wind was so hard. There was no, we were way above alder or anything. There was no protection at all. Just had this one little rock to tuck behind. So we built this big snow wall to protect us from the wind, but you know, of course it protected the snow from the wind too, so through the course of the night we were buried in this giant drift. It's probably hard to tell in the video just how small this space is, but it's
I was thinking of focusing on where you can see the level of the snow and the peak of the Celsius.
almost up at the peak. We had hundreds of pounds of snow on top of the tent in the morning. It was moist and humid inside the tent, and I managed to get myself moving a little faster than Aaron, and I really wanted video of the tent in its rather distressed state. I got out through the door and took a couple videos, and within 30 seconds of me finishing taking those couple videos, the paddle finally punched through the top of the tent and the whole tent collapsed. And with Aaron inside it still, actually, we ended up having to do this massive excavation in order to get all our gear out of the snow. For excavating our tent, tent, you know, dig around and try to find all our bits of paddles and skiing gear and cook pots and everything. We were joking that it was like doing archaeology on ourselves. I think Erin, she said something like, can you look at the markings on the pot and tell something about the culture? And it's like it was pretty deprived culture, so there's no markings at all. A few dents, you know, that's it. So here we are at the Pebble Prospects. This is a place a lot of people have heard about, but not very many people have been to.
I've been here 3 times.
Well, you know, 4 if you include both in 2006. It's big controversy. They want to build this big mine. Be a gold, copper, molybdenum mine. Be one of the largest mines in the world. It's right here at the headwaters of some of the largest salmon rivers in the world.
So if it wasn't snowy, you could see that it's a really swampy wetland area here, and there's a couple little creeks draining out of this that actually go into 2 completely separate river systems that drain into Bristol Bay. We spent the day at the Pebble Prospect, and you know, just like the other times we're there, even in the winter the drill rigs are going and the helicopters are flitting back and forth. So we went up to them, and I was just thinking first that, you know, we'd just take a few pictures from a distance and keep going, but Hig thought we should go up to talk to the guys. I was a little nervous because I think the Pebble people know that we've been not exactly on their side the past couple of years, but actually, it was a good thing. The guys at the drill rig were really cool. I mean, they're just people. They're just working, and it was fun. We hung out with them for a little bit. And so, yeah, I mean, we were talking to the workers at the drill rigs, and I don't know why I was afraid of doing that. I mean, they're no more out to get us because we think the mine that might happen here isn't a good idea than I am out to get them because they're working a drill rig. And when one of the workers, you know, he stuck out his hand, and he's had his grime blackened glove, and I had my own grimy glove, and we shook hands, introducing ourselves. I just felt like I had more in common with them than with the people we run into in the town sometimes. And I think it was a good thing. I'm glad Hig pushed us into doing that.
It's not always us bothering the wildlife. Sometimes they come bother us, huh? What is that?
Cheese.
It doesn't really look like cheese.
Parmesan cheese.
You look pretty awesome, I must say.
Thank you.
So there's been snow blowing in from above our heads and onto our faces for about half the night. Not ideal. And now I gotta gear up and get out there and be in the full brunt of the storm.
These guys, if they're frozen, they're frozen. Hoping if I scrape the actual ice off, it might help them.
So we went through Ugashik Caldera today, which is pretty cool.
All this, and do you think you're going to find any hot springs?
You never know. I think we hiked over a ridge that was over 3,000 feet in elevation, maybe a bit higher. There's a little light on the Caldera. Smells like sulfur. We're looking for these hot springs, and we found this one burbling little spring with all this gas coming out of it, and it was just a little above body temperature. We just wanted to celebrate somehow, so we took our Snickers bars and warmed them up in the pool before we ate them. And
Snickers, less frozen than usual.
Somehow the water in your socks is dirty.
Yep.
Pretty colors.
Yep. Well, careful, some of those will get on my camera lens.
I can see if I can do it now that I've started the whole process.
So what you see here with me wearing my puffy hood and Looking at all the white in the background is snow. So it's the 5th of May today. You know, this is definitely not the time I expected it to still be looking
we're like
winter.
I guess halfway through spring, right? Like it's about 2 weeks short of the 24th.
Yeah, spring is like March 21st, I think, technically.
21st,
and
yeah.
you know, I didn't really expect it to start then, not up here in Alaska, but I was kind of hoping that by May we might be, you know, done with sleeping on the snow and putting on frozen shoes in the morning. Well, we might get spring yet. Who knows? Maybe it'll be June, but I'm still hoping.
I think it'll come in the form of blowing rain. We'll see.
Yeah. Hello, bear.
Oh, it's our first spring bear.
Hey, you take this.
No, you can do it.
Yeah, I can do it. Stay away. We're not any food for you. You don't want to do this. All right. We're nothing for you here.
Here, separate slightly so you can see how big we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're big. You don't want to mess with us.
Yeah, leave us alone. I know it's a hard spring.
You don't want to mess. You don't want to do this.
You can go away. Leave us alone. There you go. Good choice. Thank you very much. Alright, let's walk over and look at his tracks. Yeah, that's some darn big bear tracks.
Yeah.
Somehow it doesn't look as impressive on the video camera as it does in reality. Oh, they're amazing tracks. Wow.
Yeah. He seems like a pretty big boy.
That was, I must say, much more frightening than the encounter we had down in Vancouver. You notice that it does feel like your heart has jumped up into your throat.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think he kept going. It sure sounded like it. Did I nick you?
You pulled my hair.
I'm surprised that, you know, professional like San Francisco boutiques don't use Leatherman Mini to cut hair.
And do it just like as we're both standing with our packs on in the wind and the tundra. What, do I look that funny?
Well, I was trying to fix it and I don't think I really fixed it.
Don't laugh, that'll make it worse.
You can get a little widow's peak here.
You can leave some hair.
That will not get in the way.
We stayed with Haas and April and Igigik, and they were really nice to help us supplement our food and gave us stuff from their house, and some of it's great. We had some smoked salmon, and we also had this gigantic bag of candy, which used to have a variety of things in it, most of which are gone, and we have peppermints. They're okay if you just have one, but what on earth do you do with a bag of peppermints? I just can't eat this many peppermints, but they're calories and we're carrying them, so we're gonna find some way. So we're kind of experimenting if we can make some peppermint tea as a way to use some of these faster, since they're, you know, part of our calorie allocation and it's hard to eat enough of them.
Like it's looking like we're going to be tight on this leg, so we kind of need to eat everything we have. Instead of ending up at the end, like the last 15 miles, all we have to eat is peppermints. Figured, okay, let's start figuring out ways to eat these now. Like the red smog forming on the bottom there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it looks like you've got it there. I mean,
this is a big cup. It's more than you think.
minty goodness.
It's not as bad tasting as the Pepto-Bismol it looks like. I know it's just peppermints, but there's only so much peppermint you can drink. What you eating?
This is butter mixed or kind of kneaded into pancake mix. It was a nice like wad when I had it done. Now I'm just kind of cleaning the bag. It's actually quite tasty.
See what our other food choices left are here in the last bit before Portaging. Peppermints. Always good to have a whole bunch of those. Yeah. A little bit of uncooked pasta. You know, it's kind of sad when your bag of spices is heavier than the rest of your food. And the upshot of that is that we don't have any food to carry, so we can carry instead this enormous pile of glass balls. We already tossed away, you know, 30 or so that we found earlier today, and then I thought after that, what if you collected a whole bunch and made a glass ball window for your house? And so we found a whole bunch more, and you know, it's less than 10 miles to Port Hyde, and we decided to kind of go for it. We'll see if we regret it by the time we get to the post office to send them away. Oh, and one of them has barnacles on it. It's very cool. Is there actually any calories left in that bag, dear?
I about got it clean.
I think they usually use soap.
Well, I don't know, my pack is entirely full of glass balls and Erin is carrying all the rest of the gear. We've got this idea that I'm not sure if this is really going to work, but it seems like if you take a couple panes of glass and put them parallel to each other with more space than the size of a glass ball between them, we could stack all these glass balls between and get a window made out of glass balls. So we have done very little planning as far as what our future house will be, but we have this piece figured out in detail.
So you're sure this is going to signal to the aliens that we want to be picked up?
So right now our packs are pretty much entirely glass balls. And so we're just going to add just a few more, you know?
Look at this one.
It's kind of cool. Yeah. We're now standing in this huge caldera. There's Erin out there trudging along. Journeys like this do tend to remind me of classic pieces of adventure writing out there. Travels of Frodo and his companions in the Lord of the Rings. This is a place that definitely brings some of those analogies around. You know, you think about, it's not uncommon to be thinking, well, here we have that choice between the high mountain passes or the deep caves of, well, usually it's not caves, it's thick bushwhacks of Moria. This place just feels a lot like that. Sometimes my ideas for what to say are much better than what I can actually say, but we came through Birthday Pass, which doesn't have quite the same sinister ring to it as Orthonk, but we are going to be exiting through the gates. And the gates, that does have a certain sinister ring to it, I think, and also a sinister look.
I've eaten vegetables all my life, but I don't think I've ever tasted anything so fresh and so green. Just those first little shoots of the pushki, just barely a few minutes between this new life bursting out of the ground and into the pot and into our mouths. And what you cooking?
Top ramen with pushki, butter, and a little bit of kusu.
It's been so long since we tasted anything like that. It's really spring.
My glasses have seen better days. This lens really isn't doing me any good, but at least it's not a hindrance really to vision. This one is pretty scratched up since I stood on it for a while on the Lost Coast. I broke the arm off way down in BC, probably, I don't know, a month and a half into the trip. You know, this is nice titanium glasses, but they still have their limits, you know. And I just lost this lens in Aniakchak Caldera. So this is all I have left. I generally actually have found it's better to not wear them, but occasionally I wear them and I like squint through that one glass that you know still exists, and for, you know, maybe reading something or occasionally trying to spot something that's far away. But it's pretty annoying. So not very often. Most of the time they spend their life right here. So.
Yeah, it's interesting to, you know, it's bear hunting season, so there's all these folks from, you know, halfway across the country coming in to get their big brown bears to stuff for their living rooms. And I've never really liked the whole concept of shooting animals not to eat them. But really, the more I talk to these guys, the more I think it's, you know, I might not really want to do that myself, but there's nothing really wrong with it. I mean, of all the projects that are going on in places like this, all the threats to this environment, there's plenty of bears, and if it's well managed, it can be a sustainable industry for this place that doesn't have much of anything. So, what do you think of this here weather, hey?
It was actually worse about 20 seconds ago.
The weather outside is frightful, and that fire was so delightful. But we've got someplace to go. Fuck the snow, fuck the snow, fuck the snow.
Oh man, the weather really sucks right now. It's
Heavy blowing sleet?
yes, heavy blowing sleet. We climbed up, it was a bit of blowing rain, not too bad. Climbed up from the bay we had lunch in. Let's see, maybe I can be part of this thing too. We climbed up,
and it was very quickly turned from rain to sleet to snow, you know, well under 1,000 feet. It was snow, and it was like blowing sheets of snow shooting up the mountain.
well, and then when we started down, it didn't stop snowing. It went to sleet by the time we got down to 200 feet or so, and the wind has picked up considerably. So now we're hidden in this little alder patch here.
And we're pretty wet, even through the rain gear, but luckily our sleeping stuff is all nice and dry.
Or it was until we got in.
It will be warm enough.
Yeah, we'll be fine. We'll be fine tonight. I am feeling better now in the warm place.
But it really shouldn't be blowing sleet on us on the 22nd of May.
Yeah, no, this isn't right. When we were in Naknek, we got instructions on how to get to the Portaging Hot Springs, and we had them located very precisely on the map. So yesterday we actually did get there, and the whole hot springs, it's in a giant midden. It's all clamshells from, there must have been a whole village there at some point. We've never stopped more than a few hours for something other than dangerous weather, but we stayed most of a day at the Portaging Hot Springs just because it was hard to get out. Been marginally spring. I mean, we have a few little sprigs of green here and there. Around the hot springs, though, completely different matter. There's flowers and tall green grass and wild celery, all this stuff. And boy, I can tell you, I've not been warm enough to be naked outside in an awful long time. It was very, very nice. It's incredible. Just I mean, so incongruous with this landscape of blowing cold mist.
You look nervous when you have the camera straight at your face.
Yeah. Well, what am I supposed to do? Just relax in the hot springs.
So that's clams, pushki, dock. What else is in there?
Butter. We always do butter.
Lots of butter. And a little bit of tomato powder and some herbs, a little bit of salt from the dregs of a corn chip bag. How is it?
Good.
And so how is it sitting in a pool in a stream in Alaska here?
Most pools I would not eat it. Make an exception for hot springs.
I see.
How are your feet?
Cold.
Cold?
Yeah. So today's June 9th, which means a year ago, right now, we set out from our house in Seattle.
Yeah, it's 11 o'clock, and we left at noon then, and with the time change, that makes it exactly a year. It's been quite an adventure. It's been a long year.
Yeah, definitely has been. But it's been a great one. I figured, like, you know, all those 30 people that started out with us, probably seems like a shorter year for them, because not nearly as much has happened in most people's lives. Hey, bear! You talk, hey?
We saw people tracks here.
Hey, bear!
It's okay, Aaron.
He's
You're
coming
fine.
towards us, just like the other one.
Yeah, it's gonna be okay.
Hey, bear!
Huh.
I should have gone further around. Hey, bear!
All right, yes, off with the video camera.
Kind of just the other day thought that walking into Cold Bay, and maybe I was just kind of sick. I don't think I'm sick. I'm starting to wonder if maybe I am actually pregnant. And we'll find out, I guess, later.
Well, we're about to try to cross Falls Pass. Our initial plan was to sit and watch it for longer, but a weekly running current towards the Bering Sea is one of the safer scenarios, so we decided to just go for it.
We are on the Aleutians.
We've been thinking about this whole Falls Pass crossing for a long time.
People kept telling us about, you know, the huge currents, and we just know that the storms here just come up at the drop of a hat, and we really didn't want to be turned around right before our goal.
Yeah, we were certainly wondering.
Yeah, we were going to watch. We had 2 extra days in our schedule, and then we just have the lap around Tsunami Island left to go. Yeah, I mean, I won't know, really, not without a test, but at least I'm sure enough I'm pregnant that we should probably treat it as if I am for the next leg.
We've got Eric coming with us, and probably should tell him something about it.
Yeah. Hey, welcome. You know, nice of you to come along on this last leg of the trip and join us and take some video. And by the way, if we run out of food, you know, you're going to have to give it to me.
Yeah, this is like breakfasty things, that's all snacky things.
Yeah, that's kind of the general idea.
It's a sign of a healthy ecosystem if you see a bear. They kind of eat everything, so you really have to have a lot of different pieces working to sustain a bear, especially grizzly bears, these huge bears. Bears are scary. I mean, if you're close to a bear, it feels both terrifying. They're this kind of terrifying monster, and you know, that's a very scary experience, but most of the time that's not the way it is. Most of the time you see the bear and it sees you, it takes off, get a glimpse of one off in the distance, and no real interaction there at all. And yeah, I really love seeing bears. We're expecting to have a kid. You could draw an analogy to the trek as a whole, where it's this, think it's a good idea, know it'll be an adventure, but sort of are consciously ignorant of what it will really be like.
Got butter, oats, sugar, cinnamon. Tastes like oatmeal cookie dough. It's the only recipe I've ever heard of that involves 4 pounds of butter.
It's about half starch and half fat by weight. It's about right for our diet as a whole, I think.
Buttery goodness. Just another lunch on the Aleutians.
It's not ready yet, but it is getting so screwed up.
So we had a bear, a big grizzly. Let's see. The thermarest isn't very functional anymore. There's chunks everywhere. Let's see the.
Yeah, that's like.
That's pretty. Yeah. Let's see.
I think we got to do something, because I don't think, you know, using the pack raft.
Oh, I have
with
a,
bivvies
I
and-
do have a survival blanket. You probably still
And
have
I have that bivvy sack I can use.
a bivvy sack.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it can rain on your side of the shelter.
Well, it's not preferably, but yeah, it's not a great bivvy sack.
No, I don't have anything, and
Yeah, I have one survival blanket, which those don't last long.
my food.
Have another
That is also conceivably patchable.
thermarest. He likes thermarests. He took a chunk of tortillas.
Oh, nice.
Like full-on bear chunk.
Are you still around?
That's pretty awesome.
Aaron,
Okay,
would
let's
you help
spread
me
out the
spread
shelter.
out the shelter? Because this is really the biggest question.
And then the
Like,
shelter got completely shredded.
We also have some duct tape, which isn't.
Duct
as
tape
good
will
as
have
stitching.
trouble sticking to this, but it might be able to do it now.
Bear carnage.
That is the sort of behavior from a bear that, like, we generally just totally don't see. Like, he was really bold. He came in, like, kind of with a fair amount. It seems like he has some expertise. I don't know. What do you guys think about, you know, hanging out by the fire tonight and keeping watch? It was really definitely a low point for morale last night. I managed to rally and I took watch through the dark time and stitched for, you know, whatever, 6 hours or something through the dark.
So here are the morning after our friend Blondie came by.
It's been kind of an all-night repair job, getting what has been sown.
We're getting there. It's hopefully going to be pretty functional. And of course, like, you know, raining and sandy and not the ideal conditions, but it's going to work out.
Oh, that's not the most comfortable.
Well, you didn't have anything to do last night. You were going to sleep, weren't you?
But actually, one thing we did that really, I think, helped a lot recover our sense of equilibrium was we'd had the fire going all night, and I kept it going all night, so it heated up a big volume of sand. And so we stirred the area up around where the fire was and then set the tent up right over it. And so we had a nice, warm, dry spot to sit in the rain as we stitched and worked on the tent forever.
Hank thinks we should put the Bear Drool tortillas in, but I think we should cut off the Bear Drool part.
Oh, it looks great, yeah.
I don't know what happened to all our food. I mean, I know we just lost a day, and the bear ate a bite of tortillas. We're really short, and I don't know. We've got two theories going. One is that, you know, with the 2 cook pots, and Eric's a pretty good guy, I mean, maybe we're just eating more than we thought. And the only other thing I can think of is, did we forget something in False Pass? I thought that we weighed all the food on Mark's scale and figured out that we were bringing 2 pounds per person per day, but I mean, we left in a hurry. Maybe we just thought we weighed it out right and put 1 bag in the wrong place, or I don't know. I suppose it doesn't really matter much now. This is what we've got.
I actually got my PhD studying tsunamis, and so today we just went to a major landmark of tsunami history, the Scotch Cap Lighthouse, which was it's about 30 feet above sea level. This lighthouse built on this cliff in 1946. It was flattened. The whole lighthouse was destroyed by a tsunami that also did a lot of damage in Hawaii. And so it's pretty amazing to go there and see. I mean, all the people who were at the lighthouse were killed in the tsunami, and it's a place that I know people have studied the tsunami, and I've looked at the case myself, and just to actually be there, we were walking through these tundra hills, and you find logs, driftwood logs, stranded hundreds of feet above sea level.
This is a lichen-covered log sitting here in a place where there are no trees, about 40 meters above sea level. Ocean's way out there. Probably moved here by either the 1946 tsunami or the one that came a decade or so later. Hundreds of things happened a number of times on this trip. And I don't know, I've always kind of wondered what it would be like to fast. I've never done that. And like,
Never on purpose?
yeah, I've never not eaten on purpose.
I would go visit some
It's kind of interesting. I kind of feel like we should do that at some point. Or I should do it anyway.
So there it ends, just another point on another beach.
Yeah, another point on another beach. Nothing, we just passed the lighthouse, which is, I guess, the only thing of note out here. we don't have enough food, and even if we can figure out what happened, it won't help us. And we can get a lot of wonderful spring greens this time of year, but they don't really help us for calories either. Yeah, there'll be enough food for me. Everybody else gets the short end of the stick this time. I suppose the baby's pretty tiny now and can't eat all that much, but I think I should still make sure that I'm eating well.
So we've been hiking around Umanak Island here in the Aleutians for the last 8 or 9 days or so, and a bear trashed most of our gear about three and a half nights into it, something like that. And we've also been really low on food, so we've been rationing food for the last 5 days. Maybe 1,000 calories a day, putting in 20-mile days. So yeah, and then the weather's been total shit most of the time. A lot of mist, lots of rain, pretty much cold. Been fighting hypothermia most of the time. But you know, it's not all that bad. Because there's one thing that's been keeping me going this whole time. The happy glasses.
I do feel guilty because I don't know whether it matters that I eat all this extra food to feed the baby the size of, I don't know, a pea or something, but it might matter, so I'm gonna do it anyway. But yeah, I feel guilty seeing you guys go so hungry while, you know, I get a more reasonable amount. I mean, I'm still hungry too. I don't know how much food I could eat if I could just eat as much as I wanted, but I think it'll be okay. I think I'm getting a reasonable amount.
Lemonade. And what was that? We had something else too. Oh yeah, a little cereal. Is that it? Aaron left. Oh well. I think that's all we have.
So we have a little bit more olive oil here. We forgot to add it to our final meal, so it's got to go down. A little bit of grid. How is it? Tastes like olive oil. Calories that I need.
Hey Bear.
Hey Bear. How's it going, Bear? You're right here, huh? Yep, we're just some stupid humans. Yeah. Just some stupid humans.
Yeah.
Nothing to see here.
Go away, Bear. Hey, don't go. Hey, don't look out.
That's impressive. Oh, we're still here. No worries. Oh boy. Yep. Just let him go.
Hey,
Let's
Bear.
not keep walking. Hey, Bear. Sorry, we're on your trail. God, you're big.
Well, just wait. Let's just wait for a minute. This is the last night, we think, hope, pretty sure. Last night of the trip.
Yeah, there should be food in False Pass. It'll be good.
Yeah, we've got a little bit left to get us there, and then we'll be getting on the ferry and heading out to the rest of our lives, to the baby that's coming, and yeah, it's kind of weird to think that we're done, that we did this.
I'm really hungry.
Yeah, except we should come back. We're gonna come back and do this again.
Yeah.
25 years, second time. See what changed.
I will have figured out how to do it better by then.
See ya, take care.
We got off the ferry and stumbled across a yurt and decided that was actually a pretty good way to go. So we bought a yurt and we're setting up on my mom's land in Caldera, Alaska, and we've got a new home. Okay, well I am gonna go out and check out our outhouse or whatever it is.
Looks like you're gonna come out today. Hopefully today. It'll be a long time if you don't come out today. It doesn't immediately settle down. It's not like I'm in no pain now. It's just less.
Right. I was thinking earlier this morning about how this all started with our discussions on the Lost Coast and Icy Bay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, we're not going fast, dear.
I don't think I can bring the pack raft.
I'm just taking a leisurely morning stroll up to the hospital.
How you doing there? No traffic. Working okay to walk, huh? How are you doing?
As good as can be expected.
Hey, Nikki! It's a boy!
A new person.
Somebody else has been here before you. Who's that? That big pup.